Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at our Swagman Chinook 2-bike platform rack right here on our 2017 Hyundai Accent. So the Swagman Chinook is going to be your best option when it comes to your heavier bikes. Even though your Hyundai Accent has a Class 1 hitch, you'll still be able to carry heavy bikes up to 45 pounds with this bike rack. So we're going to take a look at the different features of the bike rack itself in relation to your sedan, just to see if it's the right fit for you, your bicycles, and your vehicle. So if you want to access your trunk, did you know you can still do it with your bikes on? Notice how I still have longer handlebars, but even with those handlebars, we still clear them and we are able to open up our trunk. But what if you need to carry a really big box or something really large and you want access to that? What you can do then is you can tilt this bike rack away. So we're gonna have a lever right over here. You're gonna wanna pull that lever while you support the bike rack. And once that's up, you can then tilt this down and it stops itself at that tilt. This now gives you a lot more space to open up the trunk on your Hyundai Accent. And when you've gotten whatever you needed out of your trunk, you can just lift this back up and it snaps into place automatically. So let's talk about the way our bike is mounted to this bike rack. This has a weight capacity of 45 pounds per bike, which is very impressive for a Class 1 platform rack. Most of them are limited to about 30-35 pounds. So if you have a slightly heavier bike, this is gonna be your best bet. If you have an extra heavy electric bike though, probably not gonna work. You're gonna have to look at a Class 2 hitch maybe. But looking at the way our bike is held down, we have 3 mounting points. We have 1 and 2 wheel straps, and those are carrying most of the weight of the bike. We also have this frame over here. This is gonna be our frame mount. This is lockable. It has lock cores on the levers, but what this does is it mostly stabilizes the bike and keeps it upright. Most of the weight is held down by the straps. When you want to take your bike off, you start at those straps. So you press that lever, lift up on the strap, and then this completely folds down, which is great because then it doesn't get caught up in your spokes. Do the same thing on the other strap. Press the lever, lift up, just let that drop down, and then go over to your frame mount. So what I do is I hold the frame, or I hold our bike with one hand, then I lift this up, and then once that's a release, I can then tilt this away. Notice how with our sedan, we don't have to worry too much about it making contact with our vehicle, which allows us to bring this through. Another thing you can do, especially if you have a heavier bike, you fully utilize the 45-pound weight capacity, is I just press these levers and I lift the cradles completely up and out of that mass. That's my special trick for making it easier for myself. Then I pull up on this lever. We'll take a closer look at that later. And then once that's fully engaged, I can then bring this mass down. With that mass down, notice how I only need to just lift it a little bit and I'm ready to go on a bike ride. With the bike off, we get to take a closer look at the bike rack itself. So as we put this back, notice how that ratchets down to secure your bike's frame. If you're worried about your finish on your frame or the material, remember that this is more of a stabilizer than an actual frame mount, so you don't have to push all the way down onto your paint if you're worried about that. Taking a closer look over here at the lock cores, you can lock this, and once it's locked, you won't be able to press that button. Once it's unlocked, you can just press this, and that allows you to release that mount. Now, a thing I notice on the road is sometimes people don't put their straps away. I highly recommend having your straps always inside the cradle, even when your bike is off, just so it's nice and neat and not flopping around as you drive around. Notice how we have this cushion on the inside, or this wedge is gonna sit on top of your wheel and provide that grip downwards. You have different grooves on your cradles as well. So these are gonna be strong, durable metal cradles with your grooves for your smaller tires, and then they're big enough for your wider tires of up to 3 inches. If you have a fat bike that's wider than that, I do recommend getting the separate cradle fat bike adapter kit for the Swagman Chinook. See these knobs on the end of the cradle? So you can actually rotate them and loosen them in order to move your cradles back and forth. This allows you to get a better fit between the pedals and the handlebars of different bikes, and you can get a maximum wheelbase, so if you have your longer bikes, of up to 50-inch long bikes right here on these cradles. So this is a compact bike rack. It actually sits smaller or closer together compared to other bikes. Distance from one bike to another is going to be about 11 inches. So a good thing you can move those around just to get the best fit between both bikes. But it's also going to add a fair amount, or still going to add some length to the back of your sedan. So I'm going to measure from our bumper here on our Accent to the end of the bike rack, which is over here by the cradles, and that sits at 25 inches of length. So it's very compact compared to other bike racks, but still a length you're gonna have to consider. Whenever you back into your garage and park into a tight spot, don't forget that you now have bikes as well as a bike rack behind you. Now, ground clearance is going to be very important in your Hyundai Accent. Because you have a sedan, you have much less ground clearance compared to your SUVs and trucks, so you'll have to be mindful of that with whichever hitch accessory you have on there. So I'm going to measure from the end of the bike rack over here, and it sits at about 14 inches. That's going to be where your cradles sit down to, and then it dips down over by the shank. So notice how our hinge dips down to 8 inches of ground clearance, and our shank sits at around 8 inches of ground clearance as well. So whenever you're driving around, when you go up those steep inclines like your driveways or your hills, your front will go up, your back will go down, and you'll want to be mindful of that ground clearance. So hopefully this will help you out, because it does have a little bit of a shank rise, so your bikes are going to be sitting a little bit higher up off the ground. And when you want to bring your mast down, see over here by the bottom of the mast, we have a pull lever. So you're going to want to pull that all the way up, and that will allow you to drop the mast down. Notice you really have to lift that lever up, so it could be tricky at first, but practice makes perfect. Once it's engaged, this just drops down. You can bring those in case they take up too much space. Why are you bringing the mast down? Well, what if you're not planning on taking your bikes out, but you also don't want to take your bike rack off, or if it takes a bit too much space behind your vehicle? You can fold this up into the portable or the compact position. With that mast down, you now have this other lever over here. Pull that larger lever right there. You may have to get that tension up off of your bike rack. Once that lever is pulled, you can then fold the bike rack up against your vehicle. All right, we're gonna take some measurements because it looks like it comes close. That mast is now folded up against your bumper, and while it looks like it comes close when you're farther away, close up you see you still have about 3/4 inches of clearance between that. My hand can fit right through there. The good news is, even though it's close, this is a very sturdy bike rack. Notice that it's not getting any closer to your vehicle, which is great. If you do find you have issues with your wheel cradles, while you do have clearance there, you may just have to move them back and forth to get more clearance. Now, let's also take a measurement for length now added to the back of our car. Since it's in the portable position, measuring from the bumper where we measured earlier to the furthest point, it now sits at only 11¼ inches. Big difference compared to when the bike rack was folded down. You definitely want it in this position when you're planning on driving around town. You can easily open up your trunk with this folded up like that. Also notice how our rear window is obviously very visible. Our taillights are not covered at all. Our license plate is not covered at all. So it's nice to know you can keep your bike rack on and still stay visible, still stay legal on the road. So when you get your bike rack, you're gonna have this 1¼ shank with its 2-inch hitch adapter around it. So I took off that hitch adapter because we have an 1¼ shank or hitch receiver on our Hyundai Accent. So that fits right in there. You get an anti-rattle bolt and a lock. So if you're using the cable lock from Swagman, this is what you use to go around and secure everything. That way people can't loosen that bolt and can't get your bike rack. Now, what I recommend doing for this bolt is that it uses a 3/4 inch socket. So I use a socket wrench with that just to make it so much easier to tighten that down and engage that anti-rattleness. How does an anti-rattle bolt work? Well, once that's tightened down, even as you drive around, let's do a quick shake test just to simulate it. Notice how easy it is to move the car itself. That's because the fit between the bike rack and the hitch receiver is nice, tight, and secure. You're still gonna feel those bumps on the road, but it's nice to know you won't get any extra rattle from an improper fit. Now, I did take this bike rack out onto the test course, so let's take a look at how it works in action on another vehicle. Here on our test course, we'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Once we get to the alternating speed bumps, we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or a pothole or driving over uneven pavement. Now lastly, we're going over some full speed bumps, and we can see here the up and down action, and this will just be like driving in and out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway. So my personal thoughts about this bike rack is I really think it's going to be the best option for your Hyundai Accent. And I've tried a bunch of different bike racks too, because with this one you get that stability, you get that really high weight capacity, you have a platform rack, and you have integrated locks. So with that lock on the hitch receiver, you can lock down both your bike rack and your bikes over by that frame mount, which is really impressive. You also get a very compact bike rack, so you don't diminish the size of your sedan. On the other side though, if you want to carry more bikes, you really can't on a hitch or class 1 hitch receiver. Your next best option would be to carry a trunk mount, which allows you to carry 3 bikes, or to get a roof mounted bike rack. So it's really just gonna be the easiest thing for you. One thing though is with that frame mount design, if that is kind of tricky for you, you may want to consider a different design. The Kuat Transfer or the Kuat Sherpa come in an 1.25" shank. Those might be better for you in terms of ease of use, but you won't get the same weight capacity. Hopefully this video helped you out with deciding if this is the right fit for you, your bicycles, and your vehicle. We have a bunch of other bike racks, so make sure to check out all those product pages here at etrailer.com. But this right here was a look at the Swagman Chinook 2-bike platform rack here on our 2017 Hyundai Accent.